Hello, everybody. It is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another great show over here on That's Comical. Shae is with me today for an awesome episode of Creators Notes. We don't really have that many of them. As a matter of fact, this is only episode 2, but the thing is, I think we need a little refresher. Basically, Creators Notes is when a bunch of us, or maybe just one or two or three of us, just get together and we go over a very specific artist or writer in the world of comics and manga. And Shae thought that it would be a really great idea to bring one of the most well-known and popular manga artists into the Creators Notes episodes today, and that, of course, is Rumiko Takahashi. And I know who that person is. I'm just letting everybody know, even though I don't read much manga, I do have some anime know-how, and that is a name that I do know very well, and I know that Shae is a very big fan. So Shae, I'm really glad that we were able to get together again so quickly and do another show together.
I know, you and I just, like, our schedules weren't lining up and, like, our ideas weren't really lining up for a while, so it's really fun to be back.
Well, that's the most important thing about keeping those lines of communication open. And you know as well as everybody else that I'm a firm believer in administrative meetings over here. I treat it like an actual job. And the most important thing is because I have so much fun, I'm never working a day in my life when it comes to this.
Exactly.
So, of course, everybody, we really hope that you enjoy the show today, because if you do, don't forget to leave a comment as well as a like. And if you want to see everything else that's happening over here, because a lot of stuff is coming to the channel in the next couple of days, don't forget to hit subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're up to date on all of our latest content. So Shae, I am pretty much going to give you the wheel today because you are much more knowledgeable in the manga realm. So I would really like you to begin talking about your first discovery of this well-known, iconic manga and anime artist, and just when did you first discover this person and what were some of your first impressions?
Okay, so Rumiko Takahashi is very well known in the shonen area of manga, which is geared typically towards teenage boys. But Rumiko Takahashi is one who's taken some risks in that area, and she wrote the first true shonen romance in Inuyasha, and that was actually my first exposure to Rumiko Takahashi. My husband really loved the anime, and so he exposed me to it. I got into anime before I got into manga, so it's one of those things where that was a show that he wanted to share with me, and we ended up really enjoying our watch through together. We've watched it through pretty much twice now, and I've also been reading it, and I really enjoy the iconic classic art style that Rumiko Takahashi has. They have a very distinct style for their characters, and they like to tell either really goofy, funny, contemporary kind of things with a slight like magical realism element to them, or like feudal era fantasy is kind of where Rumiko Takahashi loves to live in their art style, and I love it. It's so much fun.
Well, I'm very similar to you in regards to your introductions to manga. I, of course, discovered anime first. Anime is a very interesting thing with me because going back to when I was a little boy, I was watching shows like Voltron and knowing about shows like Speed Racer and not even knowing that these were actually anime. I did not know that. But anime, it's crazy to know that it's been around since the 1960s, and it really did not truly break through in the Western world until the early 2000s, thanks to Cartoon Network and Toonami. So, of course, you know, they were throwing Sailor Moon out there, they were throwing Dragon Ball Z out there, and it definitely did catch on with a fan base, but they all didn't really get those gigantic fan bases over here until they were really starting to push these shows. And obviously, like most movies or like most television shows that really grab a lot of people's attentions, we got to read the source material. And that is the reason why manga is so popular right now. And I still, to this very day, I'm going to constantly say this, especially when Shae is in the room, everybody, I am just blown away by seeing that manga is literally taking over bookstores across the United States. It is incredible to see.
It really is. I mean, I'm the kind of person that has seen my local bookstore, the bookstore I actually work at now, expand their section constantly, because they keep bringing in more, they keep releasing more, and people keep buying it. I mean, there are some things that I cannot keep in stock at my store no matter what.
Yeah, and it's really cool when you go in, because a lot of people are saying, like, people are more interested in the online purchasing. No one likes to really produce any foot traffic in brick and mortar stores. But when you go into a Barnes and Noble in New York or New Jersey, I go into these bookstores, and that is where all the foot traffic is almost always, especially when it comes to the younger crowds.
There's always at least 1 to 2 people in my manga section at all times once we open the doors and until we close.
Yeah, so Rumiko Takahashi's work, I actually knew about Inuyasha. I remember seeing a lot of pictures and a lot of people who were trying to, obviously Kirara is a character that we love dearly, even though I personally haven't watched Inuyasha. This is actually my wife.
Best cat girl ever.
Yeah, this is a flocked one, which makes me really, really happy. This was a Hot Topic exclusive. So I went to a Comic-Con, a small one, all the way out in Suffolk County, which is in Long Island, New York, with a friend of mine. And around that time, I was starting to actually watch Dragon Ball Z. That was like my real first time that I really sat myself down and watched anime religiously. And he was saying to me in regards to what was being shown, he says, "Oh, they're showing Ranma One Half in one of the theaters." He's like, "You got to check this one out." I'm like, "Well, what's Ranma One Half?" He goes, "It's about a guy who turned into a girl whenever he gets wet." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, I had to see it to believe it. And even though it was subtitled and not in the English casting, I still had a really good time. And even though it was like right in the middle of the series, I think we watched a couple of episodes of season 6. So it was definitely a really interesting experience. And I think that was when I actually started to realize that my appreciation for manga and anime really lies in the romantic comedy area, because my personal favorites include Ranma One Half, and of course a lot that are outside of Rumiko Takahashi's work. Love Hina is one of my favorites. I like this show Princess Nine. I like this show Azumanga Daioh. I like all of these really fun, goofy shows, even though there is a lot of heart to them as well. But yeah, Ranma One Half is insane, but
exactly.
It's a great watch.
Oh yeah, and I actually have the original print run in my copies.
That's great.
So they're actually flipped for an English audience.
Oh wow! Oh
so
wow! That's actually funny.
Yeah, and so these ones are a little harder to come by because of that, because most people don't like them this way. But I just love the iconic covers of them. And I just couldn't help myself. Like, I had to get these copies. And I found them really cheap on eBay. I got pretty lucky.
And I think that's what's also very interesting, not just about Rumiko Takahashi's work, but also a lot of anime and manga artists in general. Even the romances, there's a massive male audience. A lot of guys really enjoy these types of works. And I think it's just because of the fact that I just don't understand, because I always say this to people. When you take a concept that was created in the US, the minute Japan takes it, they make it so much better. I mean, one of my favorite things about anime is the theme songs. They make the pop songs poppier, the rock songs harder. Like, I don't know why the United States cannot compete with this creativity that this country just creates out of nowhere. They're incredible people. I always admire them.
That could be a whole big long discussion we have one of these days, because I do think a lot of it has to do with Japanese culture. Like, they're expected to act and behave certain ways in so much of their life. Like, the only way they get to be creative is through these outlets like manga and anime. And that's the only way they get to kind of let themselves loose a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why you get such goofy concepts for your mangas and your animes, because that's how people are kind of kicking back and letting loose rather than trashy reality TV. It's these beautiful, creative pieces of work. Like I say, it could be a whole nother discussion that we have.
I agree.
But seriously, I do think a lot of it has to do with their very strict and rigid culture. And that's just kind of how they let loose and relax. Like, that's why you'll get a lot more emotion in your, like, like animated movies that come out of Japan, because a lot of them feel like they can't emote any other way. And so these movies kind of force them to face those emotions and let them out. So I actually end up watching a lot of anime or anime related movies when I'm feeling bottled up with my emotions. So I have an outlet for it. And I do think culturally that's just what they do.
And it's also very strange to me that when manga is so popular in the United States right now, you know, there have been in recent years some filmmakers that have tried to bring that anime style of storytelling to American made films. I mean, I will constantly debate, and I think this is appropriate times to talk about this specific movie, but we just got a brand new Matrix film. Not that many people realize that the Matrix trilogy was very much manga slash anime storytelling.
Oh,
You
well,
can
anybody who
definitely tell.
knows manga and anime and sees like the way that they did all of the CG and they had certain actions and movements, like you see it.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of dialogue heavy, and I also appreciate the fact that when it comes to manga and anime storytelling that you don't always get a happy ending, or sometimes you don't even get an ending, you know?
A lot of times they'll leave it very open-ended to leave to the person to decide how it ends.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's good, and other times you're like, give me a tiny bit more. I want a little more.
Yeah, and for me personally, some of my favorite movies that have been made in the 21st century were actually anime and manga-based films. I personally am a big fan of the 2009 film Speed Racer. I think it's great and it's gorgeous to look at. I saw the Ghost in the Shell movie with Scarlett Johansson. I really enjoyed it. And one of my all-time favorites is Alita Battle Angel. They're gorgeous films and they're great stories, but we're getting off on a tangent here. This basically is telling me that Shae and I and the rest of us need to have a new admin meeting and bring a segment back to this channel that we originally had planned to do, but we didn't do yet. And that is our topic discussions of the industry in general. So I think at the end of this, not necessarily today, Shae, but we got some work to do. But anyway, that was a great introduction. And I would like to really hear about some of your highlights of this great artist's work. Like, what are some of the best? Because I've got the Wikipedia page up here, and I am definitely looking at some that I know about, but a lot of that I didn't, that I started reading a little bit into.
Okay, so first up, there's one I'm going to mention that I don't have a physical copy of yet. I was able to get an early review copy, and that is Tame the Mirror and Other Stories. It's a short story collection of Rumiko Takahashi works, and I really enjoyed all of the short stories in it, which is very rare for me, especially with manga short story collections, for me to enjoy all of them. Like, I didn't give one of them less than 4 stars out of 5.
That's great.
So that is really, really good, really, really solid. And that one is coming out from Viz Media in February, so next month. That's why I wanted to mention it while we're doing this video. So if you have not picked it up yet, put it on your radar, definitely pick it up, because it's fantastic and it's contained in one volume. And a lot of people don't like to make the long commitments to the long series. And Rumiko Takahashi definitely has some long ones. So I've got my pile here of my favorites.
Let's go through
obviously,
them.
Ranma is on my list. We have
we'll talk about that a little. We'll talk a little bit more.
We will move forward from Ranma.
For sure.
So the next one that I'm hoping to get Steve to read by sometime this year is Mao. This is their most recent work.
Yes.
And in this one, we're following a teenage girl who survived this really tragic crash when she was little, and it killed both of her parents. So she's been living with her grandparents, and it ends up that she's able to walk through this gate that nobody else can see, and it takes her back in time where she comes across this man named Mao. And Mao is very mysterious, and Mao has lots of secrets. So I'm not going to say too much because I'm not going to spoil things.
Especially because it's new.
Exactly. This is definitely a newer series. There are only 3 volumes out currently. So this is a newer ongoing series. It's one they're still currently working on in Japan, I believe. I'm not sure if it's complete or not. I don't know.
Well, I'll answer that question for you because I actually have the details here. As of now, this series has already sold 1 million copies, so that's excellent to know. Looks like there's going to be a total of 8.
Okay, so that's not too bad, actually.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the other series I'm going to talk about, that's really not bad at all.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, this is what I'm seeing.
So yes, definitely super good. Really been enjoying it. And the art is just the epitome of Takahashi art.
Yeah, she's got I'm
Her
sorry.
style is so distinct. Like you just
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, I look at that and I could have accidentally mistaken that for Rama One Half or Inuyasha, because it's like she's got these very round, soft faces with these very unique round eyes, very different from most anime eyes that I see. And I just really appreciate.
They're almost animalistic, and there's a reason for that. It's amazing.
Well, especially when it comes, I'm going to constantly talk about Rama One Half. When you take a look at a story like Rama One Half and how much animals are involved in there, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. So the next one on my list is one that's only 2 omnibus volumes, so it's not not a huge, big financial commitment, and that is Mermaid Saga. Mermaid Saga is horror mermaids. That's all I have to say.
Is that a work of yours in April in the future for a discussion?
I would love to discuss it with her. She just needs to read it. But essentially, like, there's this whole thing where you can like lengthen your life if you eat the skin of a mermaid, like if you eat a part of the mermaid. And so this is about the adventures of 2 people essentially who have, but you either survive it and you thrive, or you basically become this like demon golem kind of thing. And so these 2 are kind of like chasing and fighting the entire series. It's absolutely well done, and it's on that border of horror where I can barely handle it. If it was any more gory, I couldn't, because the only way you can kill these things is to chop off their heads. So it goes there. It goes there.
Yeah, that definitely is interesting.
I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I ended up really enjoying it.
It's a very interesting kind of a storytelling, especially, and it feels like it's got those horror elements. So you see, that's another thing. There's a lot of people right now in popular culture, horror's really catching on a lot more from a mainstream audience. I mean, not everybody always knew that horror existed in popular culture, but when you take a look at the people who are into the classic horror films like the Hitchcock films, and then of course going into the slasher film era, there never really was that true mainstream audience. But right now, the new Scream movie is out and everybody wants to go see it. So clearly there's a massive horror fever right now. And the same thing is going on in the comic book industry. Some of my favorite comic books that I'm reading right now are horror comics. So it's very interesting to see that even in the world of manga, because we think about manga right now, I think one of the hottest names is Junji Ito when it comes to horror. So.
Junji Ito is the king of horror. I'm hoping that April and Cami end up doing a discussion about Junji Ito once they've read their stuff.
I'd like to see that too, because I know that those 2 ladies would have
even blast. The covers are triggering for me, so that's a definite hard no. I will not be part of that discussion.
All right, so what else do we have?
The next one I have here is Maisoni Coco. This is another contemporary title from Rumiko Takahashi. Essentially, we have this widow who ends up going to this boarding house from her in-laws to run it. And we're essentially following Goro, I think is his name. No, Godai, sorry. Godai is this young man. He's basically a failure at most things in life. And now that this beautiful woman has moved in, he wants to impress her. And so he finally starts to progress in his life. And it's about the dynamic of the boarding house. Everybody is so funny and so quirky. There's a guy who literally like burrows holes into other people's rooms, and like it's so weird and so quirky, but I love it so very much. And I don't remember how many volumes this is. I think there's like 7 omnibuses out currently in this collector's edition. I don't remember how long the series is. I know it's one of her longer ones.
It is. It's got 15 of them.
Of the omnibuses or just volumes?
15 volumes. It's actually not her longest work, it looks like. It's not. I think the one that is her longest at this point in time is this one that I'm looking at right now called Rumik Theater. It's been around since 1987 and it's still not done.
It's still not done?
Apparently it is still not done.
Wow. That is one that we have not gotten in the US, so I have not read any of it
there's Rumik Theater and Rumik World. Rumik World came out after Rumik Theater, which was in 1984. Rumik Theater came out in 87, and according to what I'm seeing here, Rumik Theater is still going. So that's crazy. Yeah.
If it's still going, there's a good chance we won't ever get it because it'll be too long. A lot of publishers won't commit to something that long anymore.
So your summary of Maisoni Coco reminds me of one of my personal favorite animes that I told you about off camera, and that was Love Hina. That is such a similar idea except it involves college students, but it's about the guy that doesn't know where he's going in life, wants to impress the girl. That's very similar, but at the same time, the best thing about manga is you could see similar stories,
but they're still very different.
I mean, how many people love like 50 different mecha mangas and animes, and they're all distinct and different from each other?
Let's not talk about mecha. That's a whole different discussion for another day.
That's one that I can't even contribute. I never watched any of them, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
Really?
Well, okay, I think the only one I did watch was Neon Genesis Evangelion, and that is a brilliant story.
I think Neon Genesis is the one to watch.
That one, I never rewatched that one, but that one definitely changed me because that was a heavy thing to watch, I will say. Yeah.
All right, so the last one that I've read is Inuyasha. And Inuyasha is one of her longer series, that's for sure. We're following Kagome. Kagome is a junior higher. I think she's at like her last year of junior high. And
I think you might be right.
Basically, her family lives on this religious property. There's this well. She ends up falling into the era in which Inuyasha lives. When she finds Inuyasha, he is stuck on a tree from an arrow from a priestess. So he's basically been sealed there. But Kagome sets him free to protect her from this giant centipede woman. And
giant centipede woman. The way you said giant centipede woman, that made me laugh.
Because she's a giant centipede female demon.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so Inuyasha is fantastic. I do think that this one goes on a little long in places where it could have been condensed a little bit more. And my primary, I'm still reading the manga for the first time, so my primary experience with it is the anime. I would recommend Inuyasha forever, and Kilala is best girl. Yes,
my wife is such a big fan of Inuyasha. She hasn't watched it in a while, but she just had such a good time with that story. And I think I may have watched an episode or two, but I don't remember anything about it. All I do remember is that Inuyasha can be a little bit of a loose cannon, and that might be a gross
he's totally
understatement.
A loose cannon. He's half demon, half human. He's a loose cannon.
Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely, when it comes to people recommending mangas or anime, this will end up in like a whole bunch of fans' top 10s, possibly even their top 5s. It's extremely, extremely popular. I mean,
I personally love Mao more than Inuyasha, even though I adore Inuyasha. Well, so I feel like Mao is what Rumiko Takahashi has learned from writing all of her series and putting it into one. Is how it feels. So it's like she takes all the problems from the other series and like weeds those out and leaves the best parts of all of them in this series, which is why I think Mao is such a solid one.
Right. Now, one that actually intrigued me based on a little bit of research that I was doing, which is something that you haven't even read yet. It's this one called 1 Pound Gospel. It actually ran for, it looks like there were only 4 volumes, but it looks like it took Rumiko Takahashi a little while to complete it because this one ran from 1987 to 2007. So this is a very interesting idea. It's the story of a boxer who is a very gluttonous eater, and he's getting a little bit more full of himself, excuse the pun there, because he has just moved up to the next big weight class. And basically this young nun, I mean, this is something that I've never even seen in an anime before, a nun decides that she wants to do an experiment and see if she can actually get this boxer to control his voracious and gluttonous appetite. It's an interesting concept, I gotta admit. It is an
interesting concept.
I mean, I would definitely, if I had the ability to find it, I would probably want to just take a look at it. I'm pretty sure that there is no anime that is attached to this one, which is a shame, I have to admit. Sometimes when you see a really great manga and there is no anime attached to it, you get a little bit upset about it. But I just found that to be interesting because another thing that I find very interesting about manga and anime as a whole is it's not just the romantic comedies that really grabbed me, but I like the ones about sports. I love this very small.
I have to get you to read Haikyuu then.
Yeah, the volleyball players, right?
Yes.
Your precious children that must all be
Yes,
safe and happy.
my precious beans that must be protected at all costs.
Yeah,
I love them.
I love Princess Nine. Again, I don't think I ever saw the manga, but the anime was such a great anime to me because it's all about all high school girls baseball team, and it's the very first one in an all guys league, and they are doing everything that they can to get to the championships. And what I love so much about it is everything that you love about those great sports movies like The Sandlot and A League of Their Own and Major League, like this show takes everything that American baseball films are and conglomerates it into this gorgeous package. It is great. I personally love Princess Nine. If you have not seen that anime, I highly recommend it because it is really great.
It's on my list. You've told me to watch it.
Well, so here's the deal. If you watch Princess Nine, I'll go and read Haikyuu.
Okay, deal.
Okay, that sounds like something that I would enjoy. How many volumes is that one, by the way?
45.
Ooh. I'll try.
But you can read it all on the Shonen
Yes.
Jump app.
I'm gonna, you know something? Fun fact, Andy and I were talking about that yesterday, and we completely forgot to get me on board. So we're gonna do that.
Yes, definitely do.
Yeah, so
that's you should be able to read Mao on there as well. I think most of Rumiko Takahashi's are on that app.
Well, you know something? If I ended up picking this thing up and getting rid of my Netflix, I wouldn't be surprised because Netflix prices just went up again, and I'm not too thrilled about that. Now, so Ranma One Half is not the manga that I read, but the anime that I watched. I own that entire series on DVD, including the OVAs. I don't have the 2 theatrical films. I've seen them, but I did not like them. I just thought they were very boring. But I personally think that the OVAs are my personal favorites. What really, really upsets me, going back to theme songs, not only are the opening theme songs great, the closing theme songs are great too. And the thing I hate so much about the United States and English dubbed versions of the OVAs is they don't have all the closing theme songs of all the OVAs. And it's a shame because those are excellent.
Issues. If they can't get the music license, then they can't use it.
But that's why I know how to hunt them down. I downloaded them all. They're all in my MP3 collection. I love every single one of them. Ranma One Half is just a trip. I love it, and I just love how Rumiko Takahashi creates strong women, men who are not afraid to show their sensitive side. I mean, I think that Ranma is one of the most interesting characters I've ever seen because it's so funny how when he first discovered that when he gets wet, he turns into a woman. But as the show progresses, there are points where he really enjoys being a woman because he gets to take advantage of some of the things that he can't do as a guy. I always say that my thing that makes me laugh the most about him is when he eats those very large ice cream sundaes that, like, a guy, if he's seen eating that, he is really, really frowned upon. And yet when he is in girl form, he will scarf those things down like it's nobody's business. Mm-hmm. And just all of the tournaments that he gets into, like the ice skating tournament and the food eating tournament.
The ice skating one is one of my favorites. Actually.
Oh my God, that rival duo is hilarious.
Gosh, they were hilarious.
That girl is off her rocker. Mm-hmm. My favorite character on the show, as a matter of fact, is Akane's middle sister Nabiki. I love her because of the fact that she is a cartoon character, because there's a lot of people in modern cartoons that have taken a lot of Nabiki's characteristics and have really put it into some of these shows. And that is those characters that want to make a lot of money really, really fast. She's a schemer, and I love her for it. And I love the fact that she doesn't need to show her sex appeal in order to get people to do what she wants. Nope. She's just got this very threatening aura about her. And yet they all know that if I go with her and just do what she says, she's not going to rip my throat out. Unlike Akane, who doesn't know how to keep her temper under control. And I also, and of course, it's all about those three sisters. Kasumi is also such a great character because I love the fact that she is one of the kindest, sweetest women that you will ever meet. But oh my God, if you mess up her cooking or if you mess up her floor, she is going to kill you. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love so much about her. All the other characters like Shampoo and Moose are hilarious.
Oh, Shampoo.
Yeah, and I am also, and everybody loves Ryoga in regular guy form and in pig form.
No, seriously, like Ryoga is best boy, like he is.
Yeah, and I don't really know that many people who talk about her, but I am a big fan of Ukyo. I like Ukyo just because of the fact that she runs around with this gigantic spatula, and I also find the best part of that show is finding out why all these people want to kill Ranma. Like, what did he do? And it's so funny because he really just creates so many problems wherever he goes. Mm-hmm. And it's also just really funny to see Akane running after Ranma with a tea kettle of hot water because that's the only way he can turn himself back from girl form into guy form. It's and his father is great too. I mean, when he's in panda form, it's great. You can obviously tell that even though I haven't watched that show in such a long time, I absolutely love it.
It's something that lives rent free in your head. You still enjoy it.
Yeah, and the ending of the show was very much something that I did not anticipate seeing. It was weird, and I was like, whoa. It's like you go from all of these crazy goings on all the way down to the principal of the school that wants to shave guys' heads. And I'm just like, wow, that was a very heavy 2 final episodes. And I just like, I was trying to figure out how they even fit. So that is pretty much a lot of what we really need to talk about. I mean, there are still some other things that Rumiko Takahashi, I know she's got more, but I'm just looking at her major works, but clearly you have gone over some of the most popular. Now definitely sounds like a very interesting thing to read, and especially considering the fact that we've only gotten 3 volumes at this point in time, it would be a good opportunity for me to get in early. So, you know what I mean? So yeah, I will definitely be checking that one out. I might as well do some shameless self-promotion here for Shae. She's planning to do a new show on our channel, and I've been roped into it. I may be her first victim. I may not be, but we will find out. But no, I would say that if I would recommend anything in regards to Rumiko Takahashi's work, Ranma 1/2 is my go-to, just because even though the show is relatively long, I think it's over 200 episodes, but they're fun. I will definitely say that there are some lulls. I would definitely say that when you get to seasons 4 and 5, it starts to slow down a bit. But when you get to season 6 and 7, it really picks itself right back up again until the very end.
I think for me, if I was going to have anybody read like one of the ones that I talked about, I think it would be Now. Like, it's honestly my favorite.
That's really great to know. So I think that is going to wrap up our Creators Notes episode of Rumiko Takahashi. I'm sure that there are a lot of you who are fans of this well-known artist. I mean, I can't even name many of the others that are out there. I mean, when it comes to anime and manga artists, the one that comes to my mind right away is Akira Toriyama, but that's for very obvious reasons. But it was great to talk to you about this specific artist. It got me to get a little bit more familiar with some of the other work that this person actually has in the repertoire. And I would like to know if we've missed anything out there, everybody. So please don't forget to leave us a message. Let us know. So, hey, thank you very much for another great conversation. This was a lot of fun.
Anytime.
All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.